This episode of Obscure Chatter is brought to you by gaslighting. Gaslighting. I didn't say that. And now, on to the episode. Another episode of Obscure Chatter. Another great new sponsor. Or do we have a sponsor? I don't know. That wasn't clear in the ad. But anyways, yes, welcome to the May 2023 episode of Obscure Chatter. My ass was about to say 2013. If that tells you where I'm at, it still doesn't feel like 2023. I am your host, Terri Doty, and I was about to not introduce myself at all, but hello. This is your first episode of Obscure Chatter. Welcome. If this is not your first episode, welcome back. It really is that simple. Welcome back. And only the occasional, I know you're kind of listening to this to see if I'm going to drop anything juicy about people we know. Maybe, but I'm usually pretty good about covering up names and shit. So please enjoy transcribing all of this and perhaps sharing it on whatever Discord that you for some reason think is private information. Goodbye. I really don't know what I'm doing with any of that. It's a tangent. It's also a holiday weekend. I have been chilling, been hanging out, and trying to think about everything that we talked about last episode. Aside from, I think it's very, very important that once I record the episode, I listen to it once, kind of take some general notes so I can give you guys bullet points. And within the episode descriptions, I'm not sure if any of y'all have noticed, but the links should also be active on whatever service you're listening to listen to Obscure Chatter, which only a couple of you have really told me where you're listening to it. It's usually like the Apple podcast thing or directly through the website. But we're on Audible, Amazon Music, Spotify, Twitcher. Oh God, what else? I feel like there's a big one that I'm forgetting. Pardon me. Google Play, blah, 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 blah. But usually I put in links to anything that I've referenced. Like if I'm talking about a movie I loved or television show, books mostly, I will include a link in that if you are curious about checking anything out. But yeah, like as I was saying, I think it's important after I do all of that and upload the episode, make sure that it's up on all of the stuff. Some sites put it up immediately, and sites and apps put it up immediately, and some take a couple of days, and then there's what was it? It was like episode 35 or 36 on Audible. I still have no reason why, but it's just not there, and I can't for some reason figure out how to put it back there. It's saying like it's a locked episode. It's not. I have no idea where it is, but there are episodes after that have been on there. Podcasting is interesting. It's very much like I don't know. But yeah, I'm trying to think all that's happened. Really, it's just been kind of like with the writer's strike. I haven't received any auditions, any kind of potential writing work, anything like that. And honestly, even if I did get some stuff, I'd be really hella sketch about pretty much anything that was coming through right now because there is a strike happening, a justifiable strike that, I remember just a little over a decade ago, watching like episodes of The Office and a few shows just kind of really being affected by the strike and ending on a weird fizzle because how long it took to come to terms. And now here we are again. It's stuff that I hadn't thought about because you just don't think about that as a viewer, but as a creative, you constantly have to think about that. Like typically for the anime stuff, I gotta be real. Sometimes I have to remind myself about the contracts that I do sign with not just anime, but live actions and all that. Like when you see, a show that you did that you enjoyed recording and you feel that you were more or less remotely like decently compensated for it, you know. But I won't say the franchise. And I won't say, okay, you'll either know or you know. But I did a show that later had 2 or 3 movies. And I'm in those movies. But I only got paid for the show because it was a buyout. So it's kind of crazy. Like, there was a point where Stephen and I were at the movies, and I forget what we were there to see, but I literally, like, looked at, you know, what else was playing, and something that I was in was playing at the movie theater. And I went, oh, that's probably something else. And, like, no, like, I'm credit for that movie. But all in all, to see the movie be in the movie theaters, and know that my audio was just reused, I made a couple $100 total off that entire franchise. So you're like, oh, wow. And that's just, you know, that particular project. There are other ones where it's like, I was kind of doing that as a favor to like a colleague, and now I wish that I hadn't done that. I've been paid in beer. I've been paid in pizza, but I knew what I was getting into at the time. But when the people that are like, hey, can you do me this favor, suddenly, you know, change some stuff up, it's like, you can't just do whatever you want with my sound files. But that's that's growth. That's really, you know, when someone's like, hey, really, really quick, why don't you, just sign this and then we'll get started. Like, I don't just sign things anymore. I'm that chick that will bring out the biggest of glasses if I'm not already wearing them and be like, you're going to have to give me a second. Because I'm going to read this and then I'm going to read it again. And then I may or may not just leave. That's happened. Now, I do think that now, considering it was a TikTok from one of the writers of, I believe, Abbott Elementary. But it's like, you know, we're doing Abbott Elementary on ABC. It is ABC, right? Yeah. I think it's ABC. You know, and so we get paid as a writer whenever that is on ABC. But when that's streaming on Hulu, I don't get a cut of the Hulu cut. And then also Abbott Elementary, parts of it, I think only the first season right now, is on Max, formerly HBO Max. Max, where you watch HBO. And they're not compensated for that. And it just goes on. And that's not even factoring in, look this up, where Max decided to change a lot of writers, directors, producers' title all to creator, which was one, super not above board, but also really fucks up the already very blurry lines of how people are compensated, how people are credited. Creator can mean a bunch of different things. And I actually read, I think yesterday, that HBO was like, we had no idea that this happened. Like, what are you talking about? This was your idea and you didn't know that you guys did that? That's wild. But, yeah, so fully understand the strike. It has, and I've talked to other friends, animators, a couple of directors, work is very slow. And I know that because all of us are like actually reaching out and just finally talking about the passion projects, have time to actually write and been doing workshops, all that. But yeah, it's just a chill, slow time. You would think with that I probably would have done Obscure Chatter quicker, but you know, hey, yeah, do what you can when you can. One of the things I have been writing in my free time is, I had mentioned it in the last episode, my experience with the psychic. What I've done since the last episode of Obscure Chatter is I went through the transcript of what I went through with the psychic that in my Substack, which follow me, Terri Doty on Substack. That is a link I cannot share on Twitter for some reason. Thanks for that, space Tesla guy. But I've been kind of retelling it. I've been taking out a lot of like way too personal stuff, but that doesn't regard me, because if you are a current, like already listened to a few episodes of Obscure Chatter, I talk about everything. But some of the stuff does directly kind of like try to talk about things that may be accurate, but more than likely are super inaccurate, about family members and friends that, shouldn't kind of have their privacy violated, even if it is a psychic badly guessing on their private life. But we're on 2 blog posts, and I've talked about just kind of generally like how a quote unquote psychic or medium, or in the case of this psychic that I refer to as Casey in the blog, Casey is someone that refers to herself as a psychic medium, and talking about the techniques, having read A Magician Among Spirits by Harry Houdini and a few other things, and being still somewhat a skeptic. I'm a little more open to stuff. The past few years have been interesting, and there is some stuff that's happened in the past. I very much talked on an episode of That Anime Show with, I think, Austin as our guest, Tatum and Mai's guest, hello, writer, but talked about a couple of experiences shortly after my dad passed away and all that. But the first one was kind of like talking about, like cold techniques, cold reading, just shot in the dark, name starts with L, like trying to pull information, and also just visual context clues, like, but yeah. And the second one, I talk about Casey channeling my dad, which please check that out, but channeling my dad, and it just kind of immediately being like, oh God, because for those who don't remember, I was also really, really sick on my birthday. And I didn't want to cancel this because, one, I wanted to do one thing on my birthday, like that I had initially planned. I did get to watch like the Nightmare on Elm Street movies on VHS, but I also just really couldn't eat anything, like, because I wanted to do like pizza from my favorite pizza joint in the area, and make like just make a cake with Stephen. And that didn't work out because I did not want to eat anything. I had crackers and like Sprite. Those were really the only things that I could keep down, other than like ice water. And if I was feeling really zesty, ice. But yeah, I wanted to do that, and 2, I kind of wanted to get it over with. I get anxious, about meetings, even if they are really positive things that you've got in the works. Once I've scheduled it and I'm aware of it, I cannot wait to get it off of my plate. And it was only supposed to be an hour, ended up being an hour and a half. But yeah, please keep up with me on Substack. That's where I'm posting about it. It felt a little odd to be like blogging about it on my personal Terri Doty, professional site. So that's why I'm doing Substack. You can subscribe and get notified immediately when I post. And I'm going to try to post more in the future. But right now I'm currently working on part 3, which will be released on Wednesday. Trying to post only on Wednesdays, but yeah, check that out. First part was about her supposedly channeling my dad, or kind of interchanging it and referring to dad as spirit. If she was talking about somebody else, perhaps she should have made that clearer. But yeah. Read those, check them out. Let me know what you think. Drop comments, or even little things on Obscure Chatter's Twitter, however you want to do that. Hopefully, Twitter's still around. Who knows? It does feel kind of like a fiery hellscape right now. The tide has definitely turned as far as just how Twitter feels when you're on it. I used to enjoy engaging with people, and I really, really don't do it that often anymore. But, the third one will be about her channeling supposedly my grandmother. And then briefly, I'm going to touch on numerology. Then before this, tarot / I need to start getting more into the metaphysical, all this stuff. It's interesting. Another thing I had mentioned, the VHSs, but I got to find Horror Freak, which I've talked about many times. Again, not a sponsor of Obscure Chatter, but maybe I should reach out to them. But Horror Freak in Bedford, off Brown Trail. They are so cool. They're in the same little mini mall type of thing with a retro, what was it? It's like retro toys. I forget what. There's another little thing, but it's also, there's a retro toy store in the same little shop, and also an arcade, and also a vintage shop there too. But all of those are fun. Check them out. But I keep up with them on Instagram, and they had posted that they had this combo TV. And the thing about like watching VHSs through these little like daisy chain type setups is the audio has been delayed, but I've been just kind of watching them because I've missed just, I don't know, I'm a millennial. Sometimes we kind of drown ourselves in nostalgia because for me personally, I just don't think I really got to enjoy a lot of the stuff that, was out then. So I'm kind of revisiting a little bit because I can. But I bought a 32-inch TV VCR combo, put it in our guest room, and Stephen and I watched American Gothic, which is a movie from the late 80s. Oh my God, I forget the name of the woman who played Lily Munster in The Munsters. But she's in it. It's so cheesy, so weird, and so just generally unsettling. But it was fun to just like put that on. Stephen and I just laid in bed in the guest room and just watched it. We have plans to just watch a bunch of vintage things. Also, recently found out that, I used to have a whole VHS collection, and of course you got rid of it. Everybody gets rid of their, old technology stuff, and I'd moved around a bunch, didn't want to keep bringing around VHSs. And now I'm kicking myself because there are things that I had that now I'm trying to recollect because I have stuff to watch it on. But one of the things is I hadn't put together Kevin Smith's Dogma not being on streaming. And read this like wild thing about how it was when Harvey Weinstein was still, kind of getting away with possibly even murder. Like this is just stupid alleged bullshit that I'm guessing on. It doesn't want to know. But this is when he still had a lot of control. And there was a point where he had asked Kevin Smith to do a sequel to Dogma. Kevin said no and may have said some other stuff. But because of that, the Weinstein Company still has really weird rights regarding Dogma. So Dogma is incredibly hard to find. I don't think it's streaming anywhere because it can't, because of the rights issue. Kevin doesn't own Dogma. But I'm looking for a VHS copy of Dogma because I've been itching to rewatch it. It's not for everybody. I actually let a teacher in high school borrow it. 'Cause he was my English teacher, but also my humanities teacher. He was a really scientific guy, and we'd had a lot of interesting discussions about religion. And I had mentioned kind of the general premise, leaving out a lot of the fuck shit fucks that are, Kevin Smith's world. And he was like, I watched this with my family, Terri. My God. But I wish I'd kept it because now I'm recollecting it. Yeah, I think there are some movies that, while they can look wonderful, beautiful, and clear, in 4K, all that stuff, there's something just endearing to me about watching them on a fuzzy, box set. And so I've been enjoying that. Stephen had never seen American Gothic. He found a movie that he thought like he had fever dreamed called Robot Jocks. I've only seen a little bit of it. It looks so amazing. that we're going to check that out soon. You might have seen a poll on Instagram or Twitter. Thank you who voted, because we barely won, but American Gothic won, and that was a lot of fun. Also randomly watched Son-in-Law the other day on VHS, which I had a thing about Pauly Shore. I think a lot of us did, because I posted like a clip on TikTok, and Jade Saxton, amazing voice actress, director, like freaking phenomenal. But, we don't really see each other that much outside the booth. And especially just now, I don't really hang out with a lot of people, unless there's a lot of planning. And she texted me out of nowhere, and she had just recently seen Pauly Shore, and her husband had never heard of him. So it was like us. Yeah, no, I don't know. This TV VCR combos really stirred a lot of really fun conversations. But I recently, and I say recently, just a couple of days ago, had friends that I've known since the 7th grade. One of them lives in Hawaii, and she and her husband have like a thriving store. I can't tell you where because I don't remember, but we hung out, and there was just a point where my friend Emmanuel was like, "What is the TV? Why is that here?" I'm like, "Dude, because I'm collecting VCR, like, memorabilia. Let's do this." Yeah. Like, you don't think that's cool? He's like, "That's cool. It's just random." But yeah, so great. It's also really great to reconnect with people. There are people, and I've definitely mentioned this before, just there are people that no matter how much time passes between, meetings, I'm never like, "Oh, it sucks that I'm not cool with Emmanuel or Kat anymore." It's just, we see each other when we see each other, and it's like no time has passed, but we get to just be like, "What's going on with your life?" It's pretty great. I don't have that with a lot of people because I moved around a lot as a kid, but I didn't really settle in the DFW area until the 6th grade. I'd moved a bunch of different places. I'd lived in West Texas with my grandmother for a little bit. I'm from Pennsylvania. From Pennsylvania, we moved to Virginia. From Virginia, we moved to California. And from California, we moved to Texas. And that's where my parents got divorced. So I always make the kind of observation, it's like they just divorced and said, "You're staying here in Texas." But I didn't really like, after a while, so many moves, you stop trying to make friends with people because you're like, "How are we staying here?" Because the movies make pen pals look really fucking easy. Because I don't think I got like AOL till like 7th grade. And I will say, it definitely should have been more policed. Or not even the 7th grade, like 8th? 9th? I don't know. But yeah, it was pretty great to catch up with everybody that, I'd kind of like formed bonds with in junior high, high school, and just kind of seeing how we've all evolved, where we're all at personally in our careers, talking about other people, seeing who you're caught up with. And honestly, just kind of like they don't tell you just really how much of a child you really are. As a late teenager, you really start thinking like, "Oh, I know everything," or "I know a good deal. I probably don't even seem like a kid anymore." And then you look at photos of yourself and you're like, "I'm such a baby. I'm such a baby." I had a friend, Jesse, send me two photos. One from the Sweetheart Classic dance, where I was, I'd say, crowned Sweetheart Classic queen, but it was actually the one dance where they didn't get a crown. I'm like, "Are you kidding me? That was the only reason I ran." It's because I really wanted a crown. But got to have a dance with a fellow senior, who was crowned Sweetheart Classic king. And neither of us dropped each other. So that's a win. I think that's better than a crown. No bodily harm. And then he also, my friend Jesse, also sent me a prom photo. And I don't know, I is kind of wild to see. Like, it was around the time like I had started going blonde, and I had a boyfriend, but he was a year ahead of me. So like he had graduated the previous year. I went to his prom. I almost didn't go to prom. And then we could dissect this all day, but I told my mother I wasn't going to go to prom. And a switch flipped. I don't know. She's like, you have to go to your prom. Like, I've been to a prom. I don't think they're going to be that different. It was at the exact same place as Jason, my high school sweetheart. It was the exact same place as Jason's prom. I actually went to prom with his prom, and there were a lot of people that were there with dates too. So we saw a lot of the same people there, but my mom was like, you're going to regret. I didn't go to my prom. You're going to regret if you don't go to yours. Like, I don't think so. I was still dating Jason, and I asked him, I'm like, do you want to go to prom with me? He's like, I'll go and I'll do the whole thing. But, do you want me to go? I'm like, I kind of don't want you to waste your time. And he was like, okay. And he didn't go. I was going to go by myself. But within a couple of hours of prom, there was kind of, I don't want to say my nemesis, but I had someone that, like, when we got along, it was very rare. We were always kind of at each other's throats. But I can't really tell you why. Talked about it in therapy and here and there. You could argue even maybe that we were so similar that we just didn't like each other because of that. I really don't know what that was. There was some, oh my God, I'm not even going to get into that. But she called me and was like, I need a ride to prom. Like, her car broke down or something. And then the devilish side of me was like, good. But I'm like, I can't just leave her. And I live pretty close. So I ended up taking her. And she told everybody that I was her date, which really, like, cheesed me. Because it's not that I was afraid of anyone thinking I was gay. I'm pan. I think a certain part of me knew even then. But I was like, if it had been like any other girl, I don't think I would have been as mad at them saying that I was her date. But I was also wearing like this femme type of zoot suit thing. I really wanted to wear like a zoot suit type thing. I wore like a long pinstripe jacket that went past my knees, but I wore a skirt underneath that you could see from the opening, and a shitty button up that I got at a thrift store, and a shitty black tie that I got from a thrift store, and a fedora that I got from the Trader's Village, which, if you know what Trader's Village is, it's in Grand Prairie. It's great. It's got everything you could possibly need and more, and amazing turkey legs and very questionable rides. But it's great for getting, like, just finding little funky things. And I found like a fedora, so for like $35. And I think all in all, I paid like maybe a couple $100 and just slicked my hair and put it under the hat. So, the girl, I don't think I've said her name. Oh God. I hope I haven't said her name because I don't want to say her name. She was really dressed like, a fairy tale princess. Like, she was dressed in a red number. She looked like the girl that realized she's in love with somebody at the end of a Hallmark Christmas movie. Like, very like, ta-da! Like, really done up. Beautiful. But with my outfit is like a he just looked, yeah, like a couple. And we sat together. There were other couples. We argued like a really bad couple. Other people left our table as we were eating dinner. It's just so bananas. But that my friend Jessie was able to give me a prom photo that didn't have this girl in it was wonderful. And the girl, honestly, like years later, I'm like, I I wish her well. Sounds like she's doing well. But I'm really glad she's not in my life. And there's that. Boundaries. It's a wonderful thing. But also not wishing ill will on somebody. I would never do that. I don't want to be a part of your life. So here we are now. All grown up, almost 40. And just happy people are doing well, but also happy they're not in your lives anymore. But the prom photo was pretty kind of surreal for one thing, because I shared it with like my girlfriends, a little girl group chat called You Can't Sit With Us. And it's me and 3 of my girlfriends that I just absolutely love. We can be vicious. We really lift each other up, but we can also send the dumbest shit imaginable. And I sent them the photo and they're like, what? Oh my God, Terri. What? Just really hyped me up and I love them so much. But there was a moment where I showed it to Stephen. I showed him the photo. And it was us just talking. And I realized at the time, like, that was when I had lost, like, a significant amount of weight, like 60 pounds in a couple of months, where the first thing I would do in the morning for a while was work out for 30 minutes. Like, the second my alarm went off, I rolled off of bed and did push-ups, ab wheel, ran in place, all that stuff, and then, like, fully woke up, blah, blah, blah. And then right after school, do it all again. And then right before bed, do it all again. Calorie counting. I was so miserable. So miserable. And if I had reached my quota for the day, which there was no science behind it, I very much, very, very much just picked a calorie limit to set to. And just decided, like, if I went outside that calorie thing, or if I went to it earlier in the day, it's like, oh, I guess I'm not eating for the rest of the day. And you know what we call that. As, like, not full-blown anorexic, like, not eating at all, but I was depriving myself to a point where I was just miserable. And seeing that photo, I actually got skinnier. But like much skinnier, to the point where the person that, let's call her my prom date, she actually pulled me aside. We'd been out of high school for a while. She pulled me aside and she went, can I ask, like, when does it stop? And I thought she was like ready to, like, we fought. I'm telling you, we fought a lot. It only made out once, but that's another thing. Like, she asked me what I'm doing, and it's kind of, what the fuck are you talking about? And she's like, I can see your ribs. What are you doing? And I just kind of like blew her off and walked away, and she like left. She was like, she had just gotten there, looked at me, tried to hang out for a little bit, pulled me aside, and tried to have what I'm realizing now was a very important conversation. Or not just now, but like not in the moment. Just thought she was trying to be combative. But it was her noticing something that perhaps other people noticed but didn't say anything about. I had been broken up with my boyfriend already. Jason, we broke up a little bit after I graduated because he was ready to get really serious and like get married. Like, seriously, like, hey, I'm 18 now, like, let's go ahead and get married. And, we love each other. Let's move in together. Let's go ahead and start talking about kids. Like, that was way too much for me at 18. I'd argue that would be way too much for me at any age. Like, that was like really, really intense. To whereas, like, I was friends with Stephen for a good year or so, like, I think like 10 months or something before we started dating. And then we were like 2 years into living together before we like casually talked about like getting married so we could be protected. Like, we weren't even talking about like, I need you to be my wife or anything like that. It was just, we traveled a few times, and sometimes not being married kind of mucks up the works. Like, if I'd been hurt or something, there was a good chance my boyfriend couldn't, get back and see me, but my husband could. Just shit that we thought about. But, yeah, just all of that. and realize it was not just depriving myself of food, but also if I felt that I ate too much, vomiting. So it was a nice little change up there. So it was kind of nice little change up there. God, Terri. It was kind of surreal to see that photo and know I got skinnier, and yes, working out, like all that, but I can't imagine. And just to tell you kind of like how, like the flipping, like ridiculousness of it is, I went to my doctor, my gynecologist, and his staff was really always very nice, very like Texan nice. Everybody had big hair and, kind of remembered what was going on. Like, how's your mama? All that. And they had mentioned the big weight difference. I think I forget what I was doing at the time. It's like, oh, somebody's lost a little bit of weight. Look at you. What have you been doing? Like, what's your secret? And it was like, I made a joke that I should not have made, which I said, Coke and bulimia. That's my secret. And the nurse like completely dropped everything. I'm like, I'm kidding. I'm sorry. She's like, oh, that's real funny. And I'm like, well, I mean, it's a joke, but it really wasn't. Obviously the Coke part was a joke, but like the bulimia thing. And then they did all these tests, and it was fine, but nobody clocked anything. My regular doctor didn't clock anything either. Like they're just like, you're doing so good. And now just looking back on it, the second I stopped calorie counting, which I could never go back to, is, I just felt better. I didn't realize how stressful all of that was, but also just it put my body in a constant state of fight or flight, and just wasn't good for anything because it's starving myself and making myself throw up. It was really, really bad. So to kind of look at that, since my friend Jessie sent it to me a couple weeks ago, is like, why were you so mean to yourself? Like, seriously. And looking at photos of myself before I lost all that weight, I'm like, I was just a little happier. Because real talk, that's all we do here at Obscure Chatter. My high school boyfriend, he was someone that I met my freshman year. I was doing house crew for South Pacific. And he was doing house crew, I think is like a detention type of thing. He was kind of a delinquent, I like him, just funky and different. He always wore like Vans and Jinkos and this like surplus military jacket, lots of chains, all that. I grew up in the late 90s, early 2000s. I'm sorry. But I thought he was so cute. And he like bought a Snickers for me because I did like the concession stand in house crew. And just kind of kept seeing him throughout the rest of high school. And I thought he was gorgeous. But, I saw him with a girlfriend and went, oh. Then my junior year, I had just recently started losing some weight. I was doing like a fair type of thing for the school, and he was managing like the cakewalk for photography or something. And we ended up hanging out. And then within a couple of days of that, he asked me to be his girlfriend. And it wasn't until we talked, and I'm like, we've met before. And he actually kind of alluded to, say, I remember you. I'm like, well, yeah, but you didn't like ask me out until like I lost a bunch of weight. He's like, it wasn't the weight. It was the way you carried yourself. Like, you could gain like a gajillion pounds. And if you carried yourself the way you did when you lost the weight, I still would have noticed you. He's like, you've seen girls I've dated. I don't care about that. And that just completely blew my mind. I thought about it a lot differently when I kind of fell back into old habits when I started smoking after high school. I would check in with some friends, but nobody really ever kind of clocked me like smoking because it was an appetite suppressant, all of that. And then when I worked at Guitar Center, it wasn't depriving myself. I was just broke. I was broke and drinking a lot because one of the managers of a guitar department, his wife was a bartender. And so we were always getting cheap drinks and cheap cigarettes because people that worked for Camel and stuff always kind of swung by bars and like, hey, if you give me your ID and I swipe it, I'll give you a free pack of cigarettes. Happened all the time. But yeah, I lost a bunch of weight just because what I was doing was being really, really poor, really, really broke. And I would just carry like amps up and down stairs and all that and work that way and got the skinniest I'd ever been. But yeah, like it was like even like smoking, like that was a giant thing. But I don't know if there's really a point. It's me talking about this shit now because I didn't talk about it then. And therapy is a wonderful thing. I'm about to start seeing a new therapist, which I'm really excited and nervous about. But he just came really highly recommended. And so I'm excited for new therapist guy. But yeah, I don't know. I think what I'm when like the idea behind mentioning it is that I've been an actor since I was 14 years old, and I've been doing voiceover for 15 years. And I think some of the attention that I've got has been pretty negative. And I think without certain protections and boundaries in place, that probably could have hurt me like it did in high school and in college. I want people to know that, you know, I'm all for body positivity, but I also just want y'all to know that loving the body you're in doesn't mean that you're always so toxically positive about it. It's being nice to yourself and naming those negative thoughts for me. I recently named my negative thoughts Kennedy because I hate that name because of a character from Buffy. I just hated Kennedy so freaking much. But Kennedy can shut up. Kennedy needs to shut up sometimes. But sometimes Kennedy can be a little too loud. And, yeah, no. I want people to take care of themselves, but I also want people to know that if you have weak moments or you fall into old bad patterns, that I've been there. And a lot of us have been there. I don't know anybody that has everything 100% figured out all the time. So, yeah, it was just kind of wild to see myself and like look at me now. Like, wow, I've always been on the thicker side, and just knowing that like I'm carrying myself differently and I'm about to be 40 and all of that, I'm like, wow, I am so proud of the progress that I've made mentally, and I've reached a good balance. Do yoga every day. I go for a walk with my husband every day. Try to do more. My shoulder's been really fucky this past month just because shoulders and being old and trying to work that out, take care of myself. But I don't know. Just trying to love me. And I hope you love you. And that's really all it boils down to. And maybe not making coke and bulimia jokes to medical professionals. Do with that what you will. That's going to be the one time someone listens to Obscure Chatter and does a story, and that's going to be their little, like, quote, soundbite, whatever. But no, there you go. What is Terri Doty thinking? I don't know. And I talked about dyeing my hair. My friend Kat just kind of being like, I remember Terri as a baby blonde. And I gotta tell you, there's been this weird thing. I have, aside from like the first year of the pandemic, I've had green hair for about 5 years. There was an incident in the first year of the pandemic where I tried to box dye it myself and Stephen helped me, and it went horribly wrong. I ended up dyeing my hair black from a box dye, and yeah, it was not good. When I finally revisit my hairstylist after I'm like, okay, she's being careful. She's got her own little setup. I'm being careful. Blah, 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 blah. Went in, she like saw my hair. She's like, what the fuck did you do? What did you do? But, so yeah, green hair for 5 years, and I've been growing it out the past year. The past year and some change. I think I'm going to take at least, let's call it a break from the green. I have an appointment with my hairstylist at the end of next month, but I'm going to go back to being blonde for a while, maybe for a bit. But I gotta tell you, it's something I never could have predicted is how, in high school, I had pink hair, purple hair, blue hair. I never had green until I only dyed my hair green after Halloween in late 2017, where I dressed as Lottie Person from Snot Girl. Great comic by the same people that do Scott Pilgrim. Love it. There's potentially more along the way, but I love that character. Think of it as kind of a millennial American Psycho. I'd heard someone kind of refer it to that way. As this guy West, he referred to it that way, and I just never thought of a better example, or kind of a reference. It's millennial American Psycho, really trippy, but really good. And so I dressed as Lottie, who has green hair, and I just kind of loved the way the green hit my skin tone, and I didn't really know anybody with green hair, so I did it, and just kind of kept doing it. But I don't know if it's getting older or just like the vibe around Texas, this area. But there was just a point where Stephen and I were we were in downtown Dallas. I had my hair, just green, freshly dyed. And we were walking, and this guy was walking the opposite direction, and he shoulder checked me pretty fucking hard. And there was this moment when I turned around and he turned around and I saw like some Nazi tattoos on his arm. And he just looked at me like I was like garbage. It kind of fucked with me. Like Steven and I were in downtown Dallas to like watch a show, and I had this weird moment while we were getting some food, looking at my reflection and kind of being like, what did he see? Like that made him be like, yes, I should shoulder check this woman. And I got in my head about my green hair. I got in my head about, I'm like, I think I look Hispanic, but then I've had people like follow me home before, like shouting like anti-Semitic slurs. I don't get it. I really, really don't. But I got in my head about the green hair, and right now, maybe you don't get it unless you dye your hair, like what is considered an exotic color, anything like that. But I feel like right now it's wearing me a little bit, and that is not something that I want. It's like a friend that's got a mustache, and after a while, like you can't disconnect the friend from the mustache, and it's like then the friend shaves, and like I didn't want to be like the friend with the mustache. I don't know. It's kind of that, but. Also change is good. Fuck shit up. So we're gonna go blonde for a little bit, and maybe we'll like it. But also, yeah, I've missed wearing green. I also try to avoid wearing purple. Only one person has ever said, "Why so serious?" And when I was at a Bianca Del Rio show, someone went, "Okay, Billie Eilish," but not in that fun way, like a, haha, who does she think she is type of way. I shouldn't let people get to me. And I really don't, because I actually looked at my reflection like little after I said that, and I literally just kind of smacked my own ass and went, whatever. bunch of people saw me. I was with Monica, my friends Monica and Tia. Like, what are you doing? I'm like, nothing, just checking out my suckers. But yeah, it's a weird vibe here. I'm not gonna lie. Considering going, I guess, a little more low key in the hair color, I don't know. Been auditioning a lot, all that. Sometimes the green can work as part of your brand, but it's like, well, I mean, I'd really want my sense of humor or my vocal talent or my writing samples to kind of work more in my favor than the couple of bottles of dye that I paid a lot of money for a wonderful, beautiful hairstylist goddess to put on my head. I want that to show a little bit more. We'll see, though. So it's not an attempt to look normal or whatever that means. But, it's just been 5 years, so we're gonna change stuff up, and I don't know, every time I change my hair color, somebody's weird. A little bit on Twitter, before Twitter was super insane, during, some of the, 2019 Twitter stuff, anime related, you like it. It was like I can't believe that she would side with her friends that were harassed, and also women she's never met, but she has green hair, so none of us should be shocked. I'm like, what does that mean? Yeah, I don't know, but we're gonna check that out. I mean, there's a whole mess of stuff going on, so yeah. Let's see. Man, I know that I just dumped, that was a big info dump. So, do with that what you will. Do nothing with it. And, let's see, as far as, I was actually, I was kind of try to do, a breakdown of some of the books that I liked throughout the month, which is one of the reasons that I do the episode toward the end of the month. But, I gotta tell you, I actually went through most of May thinking I hadn't read a lot. And what it was is I read a lot of just books I'd already read, or, I read a lot of, romance, again, because I'm writing my book right now, which is science fiction. I try not to read science fiction too much, and kind of minimize fantasy, all that too, but I was going through the books that I'd read. I'm like, wow, I actually read a lot. And what's really helped is I have lived in the city that I've lived in for 13 years, and I only just last week got a library card, which seems bananas to me because growing up, I very much relied on library cards to rent movies, to read, because my mom and dad buying me books was very rare, or keeping the books if I did buy them. It's like, all right, you've read that, now get rid of it, because books take up space. I think that's why for a while I was very much I'll never get rid of books, I'm going to have this giant library. But really, hold on to a book that you've loved and check in every couple of months and see if it's worth, do I love it? Is it worth taking up space on my shelves? Most of the time it's yes if I've loved it, or now what I've been doing is I buy it digitally, and then if I've really enjoyed it, then I'll buy it physically. Also, as you get older, you can enhance the font more. And that's real talk right there. But every month or two, Stephen and I donate to paralyzed veterans. And honestly, what they mostly come for now is the books. All we do is put everything in nice boxes and have it outside for them before 7 on a Saturday. That they tell us their times. Just leave it outside. They come and pick it up. And if there's something they don't like, they fucking leave it. But that's rare. But yeah, the last time I was there, a guy pulled up and he immediately started looking for the books and started picking stuff out. I'm like, you do you, man. A lot of those are new. Enjoy. But yeah, just did that, because, the library card is also, I'm like, oh, wow, magazines that I would never buy, but I've always wanted to read, or, I really wanted to read this Pedro Esquire article, but I would never buy an issue of Esquire. Great, cool. But one, I'm still very much a devoted member to Kindle Unlimited. It's a great source for a lot of indie authors too, myself included. My book is on Kindle Unlimited. And yeah, you can check up to 20 books out at a time. And sometimes even like if you hold on to it too long, it's like, hey, this is no longer on Kindle Unlimited, but you can still access it because you're still borrowing it. It's great. But one that I forget, I'd never read this book. It's by Charlotte Perkins Gilman. It's called The Yellow Wallpaper. It was actually released in 1892. I had never heard of it before, but it was either a Kindle Unlimited recommendation or something, but it's a short story. A lot of people have dissected it over the years. I seriously don't understand how I didn't see that. Some people really tear it apart, or not tear it apart, but dissect it because of just the multiple feminist aspects of it. Some people just find it kind of haunting, like find it creepy, like it's kind of suspenseful, but it's about the just patriarchal society, and how it silences and marginalizes women and their pain. Because but yeah, it was actually a really good read. It blurs the lines. It can get a little confusing, but it's a short story. You can read it in less than an hour, honestly. Well, if you're me, less than an hour. But yeah, very short read. Check it out. The Yellow Wallpaper. But yeah, there's a lot of ways to interpret it, and I think a lot of it is left up to interpretation. And there's also another short story by Rainbow Rowell, who's written a couple of my favorite books, one being Eleanor and Park, another being Fangirl, a few others. But yeah, which Fangirl also has a manga now, which is a lot of fun, which is a collaboration between Rainbow and Sam Maggs. Maybe one other person, I forget. Pardon me. But In Waiting by Rainbow Rowell is a really clever little idea. Like, I think it just spoke to the writer in me, but also the reader. And I have the little snippet and see if you guys are into it. But what happens to characters waiting to be written? Anna is waiting. She's fully developed. She has personality, depth, a supporting cast. She even has a cat. But Anna has been stuck here for years, watching far lesser characters get called into their own stories. James is new. He's still taking shape. His backstory and motivation are changing every day. But James is so detailed, so crisp, so beautifully written, he must be destined for something great. He might even be a main character. They both know it's only a matter of time before they're separated, but they don't want to wait for an unseen author to cast their fates. Drawn together and longing for more, James and Anna dare to build a narrative of their own. It's a really cute idea, because even if you've never written a thing, you've got characters that you've made up in your mind. And so it's about two characters that are just waiting to belong to a story. Isn't that interesting? It was a really fun, also kind of shorter read, but I loved it. It was a really great idea. In Waiting by Rainbow Rowell. Also, yeah, talking about revisiting stuff. I revisit The Element series by Brittany Cherry. That's 4 books in one box set. The Air He Breathes, The Fire Between High and Low, The Silent Waters, and The Gravity of Us. Great romantic writer. Check that out. Then there are 2 that I tried to read. Well, I finished one and I didn't finish the other. I couldn't get into Spare by Prince Harry. I don't know. I had so many people hype it up. I gave it 60 pages and then I couldn't. I bounced. It was just too... But, if you loved it, let me know why. Maybe I missed out on something, but you got 60 pages from me. If you can't impress me and really capture my attention, which everything that I had read about it and I'd seen interviews and little snippets, all that, Everything said that I should like it, but I just didn't. Then there's it's a spin-off of the Cursebreaker series by Bridget Kemmerer, who I've mentioned before. Bridget Kemmerer. Called Forging Silver into Stars. It's the first book in a new series that is a spin-off. And I barely finished it. Probably won't continue it. But yeah, just trying to think about the good stuff here. Like finished another series, like The Blood Prophecy by L.H. Causeway. Really good romantic writer. She does a lot of fantasy too. And sometimes she does collabs with like Penny Reed. I'm trying to think of another author that she does one with. But another great one, it's a follow-up to the first book. The first book is called The Girl in His Shadow by Audrey Blake. She released a second book in that series called The Surgeon's Daughter. It's about a girl that's basically orphaned from birth and ends up getting raised by the surgeon that helped deliver her. She was very, very sick, and the doctor is kind of like, whatever. He's very eccentric, but he ends up kind of becoming her dad, and it's like turn of the century, like late 1800s, but she's basically taught how to do surgeries in a time when, women weren't allowed to practice medicine. It's pretty good. Check out book 1, which is on Kindle Unlimited. And book 2, I checked out from the library. Read it in one night. It was great. Really, really liked it. The Surgeon's Daughter is the second one, but it's by Audrey Blake. Check out The Girl in His Shadow. See if you dig it. If not, that's fine. I'm trying to think. TV. I'm still like trash watching Teen Wolf. It's actually started to get good. It only took 3 seasons, but Doug Jones was in an episode and I love Doug Jones. Miss Marvel finished that. Finally started season 3 of Ted Lasso. And the other one, I don't really do medical shows, but I'm really into The Good Doctor right now. I've loved Freddie Highmore since he was in that weird Tim Burton Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. But amazing talent. He's done so much. Like he was Norman Bates in Bates Motel. But The Good Doctor is based off of a Korean medical show, I believe by the same name. He does play someone on the spectrum that has savant syndrome. It is not for everybody. Some people want to immediately talk about, and I completely understand this, the real representation of neurodivergent people and characters, and just really how they're truly portrayed. Is it accurate? Is it fair? I think Freddie Highmore and the other cast members and characters within the show are phenomenal, but I do see the other side of it. Some people view a lot of it as stereotypical. Some people argue that Freddie shouldn't have been in consideration, that the lead role of an autistic character should have been, given to an autistic actor. We can talk about it. It's really sometimes how they handle specific storylines. Some stereotypes are pretty outdated. While others, I have a friend that actually just found it very respectful and kind of like true to her experience. But that, that's what I think. I dig it, but I get why people don't. And I think it's led to some pretty interesting conversations in just a little bit that I've been watching it. But, yeah, that, is the big one, which again, I don't really get down on, medical shows that often, but yeah. And as far as movies, like there was American Gothic, which Stephen finally saw. I will be watching Robot Jock soon, but I saw, what was it? My Big Fat Greek Wedding 2. I mean, it's what a sequel for that movie should be. It's cute. If you like the first one, you'll like the second one. And I only watched the second one because I found out there's going to be a third one. Sure, Nia, let's go. Nia Vardalos, let's go. Why not? Finally saw Scorsese's After Hours. I'd never seen it before. Ever. And it's trippy fun. It's probably my favorite Martin Scorsese movie. I think it came out in 1986. So good. So for books, if it's a print, you get 60 pages. If it's a digital book, you get 20% max. If it's a movie, you get 20 minutes. And Orphan got 20 minutes. And it was triggering. It was just odd to me. It was not for me. Not for me. But if you want to keep up with what movies I'm watching, Letterboxd is a great site/app. Great way for me to honestly keep up with new movies. I've got a great watch list in there. You're able to kind of keep track of what you've watched throughout the year, but also you can just look at the way other people review stuff. It's a fun little site. I don't know. And then I've had a couple of followers so far, and it's just, hey, and I think it was Jeremy that mentioned, he's like, so when I ask, hey, I don't have to ask you if you've seen Cocaine Bear. I'll just look at your Letterboxd. But yeah, like it was fun to kind of add a couple of reviews that I'd put other places, for like Barbarian or, Hellraiser, like the newer one, all that stuff. But yeah, I never really, aside from like having a rough idea of what I think the length of an episode's going to be, this is probably one of my longer ones, my longer solo ones. So I hope that you've enjoyed it. I know I've talked about some heavy stuff. I even kind of had a note on whether or not to address the Allen shooting, which recently happened. I used to work around there. I have family and friends there, friends with children. And Allen is actually just a great community that has been very welcoming every time I've gone. I get to go there next weekend to do a little acting workshop with 7th through 12th graders and kind of talk about the process and see if I can help some potential new voice acting talent find their voices and have a little bit of fun. But I'm really not sure about just how it's going to feel there. They've gone through a lot. When I say the DFW area, the DFW is actually a very large area of North Texas. But we all drive everywhere. So when that happened, it was kind of like again, really kind of thing. Talked about that with high school friends where, I was in junior high when Columbine happened, I think. And like junior high or freshman year, I think it was like my 8th grade year. And that it just keeps, it's pretty bad. But I have nothing to say that hasn't already been said. I'm just sad about it. And I'm hoping that you guys are keeping people less fortunate than you in your thoughts. If you pray. If you don't, just, think about it for a second. That's what I do. I don't really pray. I just kind of write until I'm too tired or I have nothing else to say. Sometimes with this show, it feels a lot like a diary. Yeah. It's been a lot. And right now here in Texas, there have been a couple of people like, oh, well, it's Texas, so I'm not shocked that, people are losing their right to medical care, their lives, all this. I love this state. I don't want to live anywhere else, but it is hard, and especially hard right now. But I don't see myself moving. I just wish things were better right now, and I can hope that they do get better. And, just do what I can to be a part of the good change that we are capable of. And I hope you're trying to do that as well, whether or not you're in Texas. I know lots bad everywhere. I hope that this has been a part of a good in your life. As always, I'd love to hear from you guys. If you have anything you'd like to expand on, if you're enjoying the show, please leave me a review on whatever app site you're listening to this on. If you ever have any questions, feel free to reach out, perpetuallyoffbeat@gmail.com. Until then, I will see you guys in June. I'm hoping the next time I see you guys, we can geek out about some more books, more TV, more movies, and just reminisce and just, vibe or whatever. Yes, she's vamping. You cannot blame her. So sorry. But no, thank you guys so much for listening. Until next time, read good shit, watch good shit, and just honestly, try not to be a shit. Bye.